Good morning, everyone. Or good afternoon, I mean. It's nice to see you all. Today, I'm going to be doing day 3 of the unconditional relationship. And what I want to talk about today is the practice of joy in the context of your relationship. I can promise you that today will be hard hitting in the sense that I'm going to invite you, hi, David. I'm going to invite you to take a deeper look at how you live in the world. And as a result, that's going to change your relationship. So we're going to let the audience build for just about a minute. And then I'm going to dive into the unconditional relationship, experiencing the spiritual practice of joy in the context of your relationships. Okay? So in the meantime, grab your journal, grab your pen, grab your cup of coffee, and we're going to dive in shortly. So, David, I hope that you have a fun day planned, something good, and I'm going to go to a friend's house in a minute, help him build a pergola for his backyard, and then I'm going to hang out in his pool all day because it is hotter than hell here in Florida. What do you think? Absolutely. Of course, I've had a triple espresso this morning too, so I might talk fast as well, so you better get ready. Absolutely. Okay, I think it's noon straight up, so let's get the ball rolling. Today is day 3 of the unconditional relationship, and what I want to talk about today is the spiritual practice of joy in the context of your relationship. So, with that being said, buckle your seatbelt and get ready to do some writing and thinking and observing. So, I want to begin by telling you about an interaction that I had not too long ago. Actually, it's been about a year and a half ago. My friend and I decided to have dinner with some people that we'd met. And so we met at this interesting bar. We were having a couple of cocktails, eating some appetizers. And as we were sitting there just getting acquainted with these guys, what I noticed was that they started throwing darts at one another. Hey, Rick, how are you, brother? They started throwing darts at each other. Darts about how the other person acted, darts about how the other person talked, darts about where they had been, darts about failures with money, darts about all sorts of stuff in the context of their relationship. And over a period of about 40 minutes, what I watched was a whole lot of blame throwing. And you know, a lot of times in relationships, there's a great deal of blame throwing. It's always someone else's fault. It's always the other partner's fault. But, you know, really all that is an excuse for irresponsibility. So, as we were chatting with these guys, I decided that I just had it up to here. I didn't want to hear any more of their blame throwing. And so I threw a diversionary bomb in the mix. I said, fellas, I have one question. Why are you guys together? And they both kind of looked at me real funny, and they didn't have an answer. They didn't have an answer for why they were together, which is frightening. Because if you're in a relationship and if you're pursuing unconditional love in your life, there should be a reason that you're interacting with people. I don't mean that you're driving the agenda. I mean that you're engaged in the agenda. And then I looked at them and I said, here's the thing, fellas. You guys seem to have a whole lot of feelings about one another. And I'm wondering if you've ever thought about just throwing all that away and maybe you just simply appreciate the fact that you've got somebody to sit on the front porch with. Well, needless to say, they didn't like that idea because they would prefer to be blame throwers and stay rooted in their past. Hi, Steve. Nice to see you, brother. They wanted to stay rooted in their past. They wanted to stay rooted in their blame. And when you really get right down to it, in the context of relationships, who's going to sit on the front porch with you? And a lot of times, if you look at it that way, then all sorts of other stuff starts to fall away. So, as I was considering today what I was going to talk about, I want to share with you some concepts around how to find joy in your relationship. And I'm going to invite you to do something really interesting. If you are in a relationship with someone right now, I want you to do a hard reset. Now, a hard reset is where you basically say to yourself, I am going to free myself from the past, and I'm going to free the other person from the past. Let me give you an example. if you think about the past fights or discussions you've been in, my hunch is they're almost always based on a condition, a judgment, an expectation, a rule that's been broken, or it's based on some way that you're perceiving the actions of another person based on the history with that person. Now, here's the fascinating thing about that. When you are in relationship with someone, if you ever visit the past, you're keeping that person fixed in a reality that is not them. They're fixed in a pre-evolutionary state. Now, let me drill that down a little bit. If you believe that we are really evolving and growing and changing and becoming better and better every day in every way, for you to go back in your discussions with your spouse or partner and you are revisiting the past, what you're doing is revisiting a former version of yourself and a former version of that person. That's kind of like an iPhone 8 looking at an iPhone 3 saying, hey, dumbass. Does not make sense. But why do we do it? Well, we hang on to our pasts because that's where our wounds lie. Our past is the storehouse for all our pain, all our sorrow, all our misery, and all our blame. And why is it that people hold on to their past with a vengeance? Well, they do it because the past serves as a mallet of self-abuse. The past is nothing more than a story of a previous version of yourself. Hi, April. Nice to see you. Wick, nice to see you, my brother. So what I want you to do today in your relationship is a hard reset. And if you can't do it today, then you need to give yourself some time to figure out why you'd rather hang on to the shit in your life as opposed to stepping forward and saying, let's create joy. Let's create something beautiful. Let's create something perfect together. Now, a hard reset is when you say, I am responsible for my perceptions and my reactions. I'm responsible for living in the present moment as opposed to the past. I'm responsible for how I attend to and love this other person in my life, or I'm responsible for harboring suffering. What do you want to be responsible for? Because here's the thing, and this is why, okay, I'm going to go out. I'm going. I'm getting on the rant right now. When you go to a therapist, for instance, with marriage and family therapy, right, or counseling to improve your relationship, have you ever noticed that most of the time what you're doing is just digging up a treasure trove of shit? You're digging up all the pain and the sorrow and the blame and the suffering and all the stuff from the past, as if you're trying to mine that shit to find some golden nugget of joy. Guess what? You keep on mining that shit, and what you're going to find is that you're going to be up to your chest in shit. And what often happens in relationships is that people just pile more junk into the relationship, and then you look across the table sometime and you say, I hate you. Are you at that point in your life that there's enough shit in your past that you hate the person that you're with on some level? Because if you're harboring hate in any way, you're not living unconditionally. You're not living beautifully. You're not living soulfully, and you sure as shit are not living authentically. And by no means are you living unconditionally. So let's talk about stepping into joy. I want you to do this hard reset. And that hard reset is when you accept responsibility for yourself, you stop blaming anything outside of you for how you think and how you feel and how you react, and you own yourself fully. Now, if you've done things in the past, then guess what? You did them and they're done. And you've grown together. And if one of you needs to hang on to that past story, then maybe the story's over. Maybe the story's over, because a fixed reality never works. An unconditional relationship is built on growing and expanding together on this spiritual journey. It's about taking your relationship to new levels of appreciation and new levels of joy, new levels of experience, and new levels of intimacy. It's an ever-evolving, changing, growing, expansive experience. So the hard reset, all right? Now, when you do that, I want you to proclaim that to your spouse or partner. I want you to sit together and I want you to propose the idea that you're going to do a hard reset. And basically what I would say is, I've been thinking about it, and moving forward, I choose to no longer live in the past, and I'd like you to hold me accountable to that. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to go on the same journey with me. And if you've got buy-in in that, now you can build something beautiful. The key is you've got to have buy-in. And then you've got to have accountability to not slip back into the past. You've got to make a hardline rule for yourself that the next argument that you have, it's not going to be blame throwing. It's not going to be about digging up something from the treasure trove of shit. It's literally saying to the other person, let's work this process together. Hi, Jeff. Nice to see you, my friend. Let's work this process of a relationship together. Let's grow together. Let's expand together. Let's do something beautiful together. So, here are the tips for infusing joy into your relationship. And I think that you will find that these will really change your world. But remember, hi, Rebecca, remember, joy resides within. So here's the first thing. I've just said it, but I want you to accept full responsibility for the reality that you create. If you wake up in the morning and you're blame throwing and angry because somebody didn't load the dishwasher right, or wash the dishes correctly, or fold the laundry right, or get the kids off to school, or if you've got some judgment or criticism or expectation, and that's how you start your day, you're not stepping into joy with that other person. And guess what, my friends? If you only had one more day to live with the spouse or partner that's in your life, or that friendship that you have, if you only had one more day, would you waste it on the bullshit of blame? I don't think you would. So it's about accepting full responsibility, and I want you to write this down. What you focus on becomes your truth. The reason people have problems in their relationships, the reason marriage and family therapy and counseling fails, is because it's focused on a truth that is fixed in a reality that is in the past. Instead, if you get stupid with your spouse or partner, I want you to simply look at them and say, my wounds reared their ugly head today, and I'm sorry about that. And I'm managing my wounds, and you're not responsible for my wounds. By the way, if you ever say, you make me so angry, that's a big old pile of horse shit. No one makes you angry. You choose to be angry. No one hurts your feelings. You choose to interpret someone else's actions, internalize it, and make meaning from it. You must be responsible for your entire existence, which means owning your thoughts, owning your emotions, owning your actions, staying out of the past, and leaping mightily into the present. Okay, so that's the first thing, accept full responsibility. Both partners have to do it. Number 2, accept that no person or situation or experience can be blamed for what you're choosing in the present moment. Nothing. Now, let me give you a hardcore example, okay? I've worked with people that are victims of trauma, murder, suicide, bombings, all sorts of stuff, and God bless them. They have been through really tough highways of pain. But there's something interesting. When you look at people that have been victims of trauma, there are 2 paths that victims of trauma take. One is that they reconcile that trauma, they look at it, and they fold it into their life, and they make meaning out of it, and then they live differently. They choose to not live in their trauma. The other path that people take is to live fully in it, and it becomes their identity. And if your past and your trauma is your identity, you have stopped growing. And you certainly are not going to evolve from a spiritual standpoint. So accept that no other person or situation or experience outside of you influences how you are centered, grounded, and focused on the present moment. It's about being mindful, moment by moment, in the moment. Okay? Hi, Michael. Nice to see you. Number 3, your past is irrelevant because you're choosing to bring it into your present. The thing I know with every client that I work with is if they can liberate themselves from their past, they can be completely free. Completely free. Michael, I'm going to tell a story on you, if I may. My friend Michael that's on the call right now, and I spent some time together in his condo in Denver a couple of years ago. And after 3 or 4 days together of talking and liberating the past and sharing and crying and laughing and meditating and praying and smoking a shit ton of weed, or just having a good time together, He went on a 2-week journey, just traveling around, integrating the process, thinking about how to create the new life that he truly deserves. And I don't know if you remember this, Michael, but you called me the day that you arrived back at your condo. And what I remember distinctly, you said something to the effect of, Trey, I just got here and I don't live here anymore. And I think I popped off and said something like, I guess it's time to redecorate. When you step out of your past, sometimes you got to redecorate your life in the present. And in the context of your relationships, accepting that your past is irrelevant and create the relationship you want in the moment. If you feel like you're stale and stagnant, then do something to change that. Go paddle boarding, go for a hike, mow the yard together, jump in the shower and tickle each other. I don't care what it is, but do something to interrupt the state, okay? Here is the fourth thing I want you to think about creating joy in your relationship. The future is an illusion. Now, of course, we think we're building a future together, and don't get me wrong, I think that you should be committed to building something together, but don't hold on to your future for happiness to arrive. Your future is an illusion. Happiness does not lie outside of you. Happiness is right here, right now, in the moment, right here. The next thing I want you to think about infusing joy into your relationship is to celebrate that you are already whole. But you see, you've been sold a big bill of goods, a shitty bag of dishonesty that tells you that you're broken and flawed and separated from the divine. That's all wrong. You're not separated from anything. You are an expression of the divine. You are an integral part of creation. You have everything you need within you to create a beautiful moment right now. But you can't do it as a blame thrower. It's about responsibility, okay? It's also about celebrating that you are whole. When was the last time you looked in the mirror, stripped buck naked, and you said, look at that whole and perfect expression of creation? I want you to try that this afternoon, okay? I want you to live your life and your relationships, infuse it into the process with your relationships. This sense of curiosity, of exploration, of adventure, of joy, of unattached wonder. Think about walking in the park together, and instead of talking about all the shit you gotta manage or all the things you're angry about, you simply walk silently in appreciation for where you are, what you're seeing, what you're interacting with, how you're a part of creation. What if you brought curious celebration to your relationship? I can promise you, if you do, a couple of things are going to happen. Your partner's going to look at you and they're either going to get on the joy train with you, or it's going to push their buttons like crazy and they're going to fight you. But if they fight you, it's because they're stuck in a shitty story. And if they're stuck in the shitty story, it has nothing to do with you. That's just the way their journey is right now. Okay? Now, I want you to also, infusing joy into your relationship, accept that you are two partners, two friends, two souls on separate journeys that chose to intersect, that interweave in some way. But here's the mistake we make with relationships. The mistake that we make is believing that we're on the same exact journey. There are ups and downs, highs and lows, joys and sorrows. There are processes, frankly, in the context of a relationship, what we're really doing is being invited to heal the wounds of our soul. And sometimes that's very, very difficult. I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone a couple of nights ago. He said, what do you want in a partner? I said, it's one thing. Actually, it's two things. I want someone that shows up really well, to the best of their ability. Okay? Second thing I want is someone that is fully aware of their own woundedness and they simply manage their wounds. Knowing that we're going to journey together, that the wounds are going to surface, that those are opportunities to have radical honesty, great conversation, meaningful intimacy, and growth together. Relationships must be nurtured, they must be fed, and they must grow together. And by the way, if you're in a relationship that's not nurturing and flourishing and growing together, run for the hills. Get out of it, because you're just spinning your wheels in the past. Get out of it. Okay? So, but ultimately, you are alone on your own spiritual journey. So you got to get your heart and your soul right. You got to get you right with the divine. You got to understand that, and I know I sound like a Baptist preacher, I don't mean that. But the issues that we face in our relationships, 99.9% of the time, are spiritual issues. We feel separated from the divine. We feel weak. We feel insignificant. We allow our wounds to surface, and we spew that shit on other people. So going back to what I said when I first started, take responsibility for your shit. Unload your own backpack of pain. Don't throw the rocks of pain at other people. Don't blame other people for the rocks of pain that you have in your backpack. And know that no other human can make you whole. You are already whole. Hi, Jerry. Nice to see you. You're already whole. You're already beautiful. And if you need to believe a story of woundedness and brokenness, then you're living in the past. And I'm sorry. Okay? I want you to consider two things as you think about your relationship and how you infuse joy into it. Every moment of every single day, you have the option to layer moment on top of moment in a positive, beautiful way. Living with expectancy, living with purpose, living with intention, living with gratitude, living with appreciation, allowing. And this is what it's predicated on. The one thing that actually, it's two things that we control in this world. Only two things. How we perceive situations and how we react to situations. How we perceive others and how we react to others. And if your perception is through a blame, victim orientation, you will always perceive people as coming at you. If your perception is through a position of gratitude, appreciation, and celebration, open curiosity, you will always perceive joy. It's a powerful thought. Incredibly powerful thought. So, the only thing that we control is perception and reaction. And my advice to you is to choose wisely. If you get all frothed up in a frenzy, take yourself out of the equation. Go calm yourself. Breathe. Walk around the block. Do something to center and ground and find your inner zen, if you will. Find it. All right, now, here's the last thing I want to share with you about joy, and then I want to talk briefly about radical honesty. You step into joy in your life, in your relationships, and you become far more unconditional when you fully understand that you choose every aspect of suffering in your life. Every aspect. No one's choosing suffering for you. No one's imposing suffering on you. You are there for a reason. You are choosing that. Now, let me go out on a rant for just a moment. Because I'm a part of all these groups all over Facebook, thousands of people all over the world, and they're doing what I call the love and light movement. Everybody's ascending into this beautiful soulfulness. We're becoming love and light, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's beautiful that we're thinking more about love. But if you've ever noticed on all those Facebook pages, there are numerous articles about narcissists. Now, I know a lot about narcissists. And in each of these articles, they always vilify the narcissist. They vilify the narcissist. And if you get involved in some of these threads, you will see people that have been influenced by narcissists because they chose to be in a relationship with one. Get your head around that. If you're connected to a narcissist right now, you are choosing to be there. Now, buck it up, buttercup. And if you don't like it, then get the fuck out. If you want to stay there, guess what I'm going to tell you? That narcissist is going to show you every button you have, and you will learn how to evolve your soul out of it as long as you're no longer a blame thrower. But back to this love and light thing. Why do we have to vilify a certain group of people when in fact we make the choice? Every single aspect of suffering in your life is a choice. Now, I know that's confrontive. I know that's strong. But we have been indoctrinated to personal irresponsibility. When was the last time a therapist said to you, I want to hear your pain, I want to hold your suffering with you, and then I expect you to get rid of it? No, that's not what happens. You go for another 50 minutes every week or every other week. You get your drugs. You have this same verbal masturbation experience every single week. How are you doing this week? I'm fine. I'm struggling with this. Right? I want a therapist that says to me, you know what? I've heard that same story so many times that it's nauseating me. How's that story working for you? Why are you choosing to maintain that story? When are you going to finally accept responsibility that you create your reality? The whole entire industry of therapy could be wiped out just like that if people would simply accept responsibility for their suffering. Accept responsibility. You make every choice in your life. If you don't like your job, if you don't like your spouse, if you don't like your partner, if you don't like where you live, if you don't like anything about yourself, you can continue to blame throw and there will be no joy there. Or you can say, okay, I have the power, the strength, the courage, the determination, and the freedom to make a big, bold, beautiful choice. And know that if you make a choice, you might have to pay some of the consequences for staying in the place that you've been in. But you can shift out of that suffering as soon as you start standing in a place of appreciation, standing in a place of gratitude, looking at your spouse or partner with expectancy, knowing that great things are going to work out, not harboring the past, but building the moment together, building the moment together. Now, I'm going to give you, I want you to think about 4 questions to journal on. And if you dig around these 4 questions, I can guarantee you they're going to show you some things about how you're living in the world. The first question is, who is in control of your life experience? Who's ultimately in control? Now, by the way, I was in a conversation last week with a woman that has so radically spiritualized her life that she does not believe that she has control over anything. Her emotions, her thoughts, her actions, her relationships, it's all in the power of God, right? That's a whole bunch of horseshit. She's creating the reality, and she's giving all her power to something outside of her. So I want you to ask, who is in control of my life experience? And if you can't land on the idea that you're in control, I want you to keep digging. Why do you need to believe someone or something else is in control when you create your reality? What you think about, you bring about. Here's the second question. Is there anyone you blame for who you are or how your life is today? Bam, there you go. We blame our parents, we blame our past relationships, we blame our bosses, we blame our colleges, we blame our children, we blame our friends for who we are today. And that is the weak-willed, irresponsible approach. There is no one in the world that you can blame. And here's the thing, if you've had some really bad trauma in your life, I'm sorry it happened to you. You can continue to blame someone else for the damage, but what you're focusing on is the damage, not your strength, not your resiliency, not your capability, not your functionality. Accept responsibility for yourself. Very, very simple. Number 3, here's the question. Are you broken and separated from the divine? Are you perfect and fully connected as an expression of the divine? You're either broken and separated, which is in the Judeo-Christian tradition what we learn, but does it dawn on you at any moment, has it ever dawned on you that that could just be a manipulation and control tactic? Because if the flock is broken, the flock needs a pastor or a priest, the flock needs a place to go, the flock needs to tithe, the flock needs someone to guide them to the divine. In my opinion, that is a 100-mile pile of horse shit. You're already divine. You're already perfecting. You're already getting better and better every day in every way. You're already a perfect expression of something far bigger and greater than you. And here is the 4th question. How do you experience and appreciate creation and nature? Now, creation is other people, nature, animals, plants, seeing all of it. How do you appreciate it? How do you stand in gratitude every single day for everything that's around us? Or do you even see it? Because sometimes blame throwers are so focused on not seeing anything good that they live in a miserable pit of despair. By the way, I'm going to give you one big challenge too. If you have somebody in your life that's choosing to live in a miserable pit of despair, you have a choice. You can stay in that soup with them, or you can make a hard decision, accept bold responsibility, and move on. Move on. All right, so I'm going to offer you one final challenge. I want you to, this week, ask yourself those questions. Step boldly in the present moment. Try everything in your power to stay out of your past. Know that your future is an illusion. And ultimately, I want you to practice gratitude every single moment. Gratitude for the life that you have, gratitude for the struggles that you're working through, gratitude for the people in your life, gratitude for nature, gratitude for joy, gratitude for the biggest and the smallest things. And if you struggle with gratitude, I want you to sit down right now and I want you to write down 20 things that you're grateful for. And if you can't do it, then write down as many as you possibly can and then go back and revisit it. Because when we stand in a place of gratitude, that's when joy pours in. The more grateful we are for every aspect of life, the more we learn about life. The more grateful we are for other people and the challenges and the joys and the sorrows and the difficulties and the ups and the downs, the more joy comes in because you crack the door open and you allow the light of joy to penetrate you. Gratitude centers you as a natural, evolving, beautiful creature. Breathe, meditate, create, express, and bottom line, if you want joy in your unconditional relationship, then I want you to allow others in their lives to live their truth. Whatever it looks like, however it feels for them, they deserve it, as do you. So I stand in profound gratitude to each one of you. I wish you all well, and I hope you have a beautiful Saturday. Have a beautiful Sunday, and launch next week standing fully in the present, layering moments upon moments, creating a beautiful, joyful, peaceful, purposeful life. Be well, friends.